pieces. But those pieces, even the tiny ones called microplastics, are still plastic. Sea turtles are choking on it. Scientists say that over 60% of whale and dolphin species are affected by it. Zooplankton, the base of the ocean food chain, eat it. And so do we. It's in the water we drink. It's in our food. Microplastics have been found in our salt, our honey, and our beer. And sometimes even in the air we breathe. Companies are choosing to make something that will be used just once, from a material that lasts forever. If you don't like what throwaway plastics are already doing to our world, brace yourself. We face a tsunami of throwaway plastic in our and the ocean's future. 4 times more plastic will be produced between now and the middle of the century than has been produced in all of history. 4 times more. What can we do? Recycling? Of all the plastic ever generated as of 2015, only 9% was recycled. Even when it is recycled, plastic degrades. Your plastic soda bottle maybe becomes a shampoo bottle, then a floor mat. Even in the best case, it doesn't recycle, it downcycles. And then it becomes pollution that ruins our beaches and chokes sea animals forever. We should not be forced to pollute the ocean every time we eat, drink, or go shopping. We need to be given a choice, a plastic-free choice. This is not hard to imagine. Indeed, some responsible companies are already leading the way. There are throwaway plastic-free aisles in supermarkets. Beverage companies already offer plastic-free soda and salsa water. Restaurants offer plastic-free service. There are plastic-free rooms in hotels. An airline is now offering a plastic-free flight. And Oceania and our allies are winning plastic-free victories. Following campaigning by Oceania, Peru passed a law that keeps plastic out of national parks and beaches. Belize is getting rid of styrofoam. And the European Union has mandated reductions for throwaway plastic throughout its 28 member countries. But with your help, we can do more. Together, we can create a movement to reduce throwaway plastic. We can make sure we're all given real plastic-free choices. We can help our cities, towns, schools, and workplaces establish zones that are free of throwaway plastic. Let's stop plastic pollution from wrecking our beaches and our oceans, and have healthy oceans that delight and sustain us for generations to come.
An amazing morning to you all. It's so good to have each and everyone joining this morning in this RecycleUp workshop series. I want to see each and everyone's comments. Good morning, Koma from Cross River. How is your morning? How is it over there? And how is the weather over there this morning? And I so much love this video, which we are starting with today. It's a call to action for each and every one of us. And we have a role to play here in getting to protecting the environment and keeping the planet safe and clean. My name is Emmanuel Olaoluwoyo, and also with me, we have all other program managers for this RecycleUp initiative. And this morning, we are diving straight to this session. If you know your colleague that is not yet on the call, please reach out to them. I believe that now we have state representatives. Please reach out to your state teams. Let them join the call as we are going to be starting right away. And this morning, we are blessed to have another leader, a change maker, and an industry expert in our midst. who is going to be leading us in another session this morning. And I can assure you that it's going to be an impactful one. And I believe you are prepared. You've prepared your notepad, you've prepared your jotter, either you are doing it electronically or you are doing it in the black and white. Yeah, this morning we are blessed to have Madam Oluwaseyi Ebenezer, who is an accomplished legal professional with rich and diverse expertise that encompasses international environmental law, gender studies, environmental safety and management, and human rights. Our skill set extends to sustainable development, climate change mitigation, community engagement, and waste management. As a seasoned advocate for environmental justice and policy change, she's a compelling communicator who champions ethical practices, particularly at the intersection of health, safety, and climate change. As she continues her journey, Oluwaseyi aspires to leverage her extensive legal background, practical experience, and unwavering passion to drive positive change in climate education, environmental stewardship, and sustainable development across the world. And just like I said, we are so blessed to have another industry expert in our midst this morning. She's going to be leading the session on environmental policy and control. And we are glad to welcome her on behalf of the leadership of ADEV Africa and SGSN Nigeria, who are the organizer of this program. Thank you for joining. Thank you for honoring our invitation. We are so glad to have you this morning. Good morning, Madam Oluwaseyi.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Good morning.
Okay. Yes, it's good to be here, and I'm very excited because I can see up to 92 participants. So that's a good one. And I really want to appreciate the organizers of this workshop and for bringing us together to share ideas. So thank you very much. I would like to share my screen.
Yes, you can go ahead and do that.
Okay, so can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So good morning once again. My name is Oluwaseyi Ebenezer, and like I said, I'm so happy and excited to be here. So I will be speaking on environmental policies and regulations in Nigeria. And before I start, I would want to tell us that I know this workshop is about plastic pollution. So they gave me a very, very broad topic, which is environmental policies and regulations, but I will try and do my best to narrow it and make it fit into what we are all here to do. So I'll be talking about regulations and policies. But before I start, I want to share a story. As a child, I live in Lagos, and my parents always like to take me to the beach. And then the beach was so fantastic. I'm always happy to be there. But fast forward to today, if you go to the beach, what you'll be dealing with is plastic, plastic, plastic. And that, for me, is very disheartening. So I'm very glad that I have an opportunity to be here today to also pay my dues in our effort to tackle plastic pollution in Nigeria. So I would like to give a brief background of Nigeria. And I believe all of us are from Nigeria. And if there's any other person from outside the country joining us. So it's just a brief overview of Nigeria. So we have the geography of Nigeria, which is the West Africa. Nigeria is, and we are bordered with by Benin, Chad, Cameroon, and Niger. Also, the demographic, we have over 200 million people in Nigeria, and we are still counting. So that means our population is exploding. And also the economy, our economy cuts across telecommunication, oil, oil and agricultural services. Nigeria is one of the largest oil producer, which plays a significant role in our economy. However, as much as we are the largest producer of oil, it comes with serious negative environmental impact. So I would also like to talk about the importance of environmental regulations. Why do we have why is it important to have environmental, sorry, excuse, my network is, okay. Sorry, just 1 minute, please. I'm sorry for that. I don't know my laptop. Okay, so why is it important for us to have environmental regulations? Why do we have why do countries need to have environmental policies? First of all, there is a pressing need to combat desertification, climate change, public health, overall well-being of our citizens. So it is important to have policies and regulation in place to help tackle this problem. It's also important for preserving our environment, our biodiversity, and our unique ecosystem. Also, environmental regulations help in addressing the consequence of urbanization. Like I said, Nigeria has over 200 million people, and we are still growing. So we need to have policies and regulations in place to tackle the issue of urbanization, of population bloom, and industrial activities that will come with the with urbanization and population growth. So what's the overview of my presentation? I will dive into the historical context of Nigeria relationship with the environment. I will also highlight the key environmental challenges that we are facing in Nigeria. I would explore the efforts and future path towards environmental sustainability. It's important for me to talk about the historical context of a Nigerian regulation and policy, because up to 1988, Nigeria do not have a fixed environmental policies or regulation that deals with environmental issues in Nigeria. So I would like to give an overview of the historical event that led to Nigeria having environmental legislations and policies or laws. So like I said, the historical context. During the pre-colonial era, people lived in harmony. I can say relatively in harmony with the environment. Our population was not as much as 200 million people, and the urbanization and industrial activities were limited at this period. So we have a lot of settlements, community settlements, and these community settlements, they have a kind of connection with the environment. So there is harmony with nature. Before colonial influence, various Nigerian communities lived in harmony with their environment. Resources were used sustainably, often governed by traditional belief. There are still some traditional belief in Nigeria that they preserve their forest. They see it as a sacred forest. So you can't go into the forest and cut down the trees there. There's some villages that worship a particular tree in their community, and it is forbidden for you to cut down this tree. So these are traditional beliefs, these are culture that are helping conserve the environment. During the pre-colonial era also, we have they practice sustainable agriculture, techniques like crop rotation, mixed farming, organic fertilizer, basically from composting, were being used during this time, and it helped maintain soil health and balance the ecosystem. We also, during the pre-colonial era, there's community conservation. Forests, like I said earlier, forests, water resources, scarce sites were often protected by local custom. So because they are protected by local custom, it is a taboo for anybody to maybe fetch from the particular river or cut down the tree in the particular community because their tradition do not allow such. So now the post-colonial industrialization and urbanization. So, and this, when I talk about colonial and pre-colonial, I'm talking about prior to Nigeria independence. So after the post-colonial era, we have shifts in paradigm. With colonization came a shift from community-driven conservation to state-driven exploitation. So natural resources were extracted for economic growth. So at the pre-colonial time, natural resources were being preserved. People live in harmony with nature. But the post-colonial, there's a paradigm shift. Now resources are economic driven. Then we have rapid urbanization. There was a surge in urban migration. So people migrated from community, keep migrating from community to the city, and that is putting pressure in the city settlements. So cities grew often without adequate planning, leading to issues like waste management, water pollution, and strain on resources. So a lot of people do not want to live in the community anymore. They want to migrate to the city to get better chances, work and all that. And that puts pressure on. Okay, someone is raising. Okay, so industrialization, there was also industrialization. As Nigeria stood towards modernization, industries sprouted. And this also gives a lot of pressure on our natural resources. It also introduced challenges to like waste, industrial waste, increase in greenhouse emission, and all the likes. So waste disposal I also want to, because this is the recycling, I hope you can all hear me. People kept raising their hands. So,
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, so because this is the recycling workshop, I also want to dive a little into waste. So waste disposal during the pre-colonial era or the modern era, which is also the pre-colonial era, there was community-driven approaches. Local community come together to dispose their waste. They are very intentional in disposing their waste because they do not want anything that would disrupt their community or that would disrupt nature or their environment. Also, they have community dump sites. There are designated area where community members could dispose their waste. And it's not only disposing their waste, they make sure that disposing their waste is done in a very sustainable manner. Most times, food waste are not being dumped. They compost this food waste to make fertilizer for their garden or their farm. So all these are practices that were done before urbanization in Nigeria. So sorry, my system. Okay, so what are the nature of waste during this era? Majority of waste during this time are organic and they are composed and they are used for agricultural residue. They are, at that time, we don't really have plastics because plastic came with urbanization, with modernization. So the kind of waste that was generated at this time do not affect the environment negatively. So they also make sure that they decompose they make it into, most of their food waste are being made into organic waste so that they decompose naturally, and this also helps the soil. So then we have limited non-biodegradable materials at this time. Like I said, plastic, which is one of the menaces we are going through right now, was not really available at that time. So majority of their waste are biodegradable, so they can decompose easily, and they also help the soil. So we have waste like wooden grass, I'm sorry,
Apologies, ma. This is coming from one of these participants drawing on your screen, and
Okay.
I think that person should kindly ensure you are using your device appropriately, or you move up. You can continue, ma. I think he has been moved out of the session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so like I was saying, most of the waste that were being produced or people used at that time were not non-biodegradable waste. They are biodegradable waste and not biodegradable waste, non-biodegradable waste. So majority of those waste decompose easily, and it also helps the soil and the nutrients. So what are the impacts and advantages of preserving or watching what we use, or the kind of waste we generate? So this help, and I'm mentioning this because it's important for us to know where we're coming from. So that exactly is where we're coming from before we get here at this point where we generate a lot of plastic. So at that point, because they don't generate too much waste and they generate basically biodegradable waste, it has a minimal impact on the environmental footprint. So the natural and organic nature of waste meant a lower environmental impact. Land remains fertile, water source uncontaminated. So it's also it's a resource of circular system. The waste produced returns to the environment as nutrients. So the majority of the food waste, they don't just dump it, they make it into compost, and it helps fertilize the soil. So, and at this era or time, there was also community bonding. Collective waste disposal ritual often enhance community bonding. So when there's a tradition of we coming together, or there's a particular dump site that it's for the community, all the community will want to make sure that the place is, relatively neat, and it is being done in the proper way. And when they're coming together, it kind of also bond them. It kind of bring harmony to the community. So it's not about waste alone. It's not about how they're disposing their waste alone. It's also bringing harmony and unity into the community. So back to post-colonial era, what are the primary threats that Nigeria is facing on its natural environment right now? So the first one is oil spill and pollution. Over the past decade, thousands of oil spill incidents have been recorded, releasing millions of barrels of oil into the environment. For instance, the Shell Bonga spill in 2011 and the rest. And all this is impacting our aquatic life. A lot of when oil spill happen, or oil spill pollution happen, it destroys lots of aquatic life. It also pollutes the water, and it makes it non-drinkable for the community where such incidents happen. So it also causes public health issue for any community member that mistakenly drink the water, or maybe the person didn't know that there was oil spill and mistakenly drink the water. It causes lots of public health hazard as well. And we also have terrestrial impact. You can see from the picture that there's nothing they plant on this soil that will ever grow for a long time. So when such spill happen, it affects the soil, it affects the farm or the agricultural in that area, and it also affects a lot of life, a lot of animals in such places as well. So as much as it affects the water, it also have impact on the terrestrial, on people and animals and the soil around that area. So we also have deforestation. Deforestation is happening at a very, very exacerbating rate in Nigeria. And the root cause is urbanization. The more we develop, the more we'll put pressure on our nature, on trees. We need trees for furniture and other things, for building and other things. So as we put pressure on nature. Also, agriculture is another cause. people want to plant, they clear a lot of land for planting. And at this point, a lot of trees are being cut down without replanting. So this also adds to deforestation, and also logging for furniture, logging for a lot of things. We need wood for a lot of things. So, and this is putting pressure on nature. So what are the detrimental causes? We have biodiversity loss. When trees are cut down without replacement, a lot of biodiversity in such area goes away forever. So and this is also adding to climate change. Then we have climate change, then we have flooding and erosion. Most times, trees play a very, very significant role when we talk about flood. So the more deforested the area is, the more the area is likely to experience flood and erosion. Then we have plastic pollution. A significant portion of this plastic doesn't make it to proper disposal sites. So streets, waterways, even natural habitat are littered with plastic debris. You all know the problem we are facing when we talk about plastic pollution in Nigeria. It's too much. So, and we need to do something. And that's why coming together to talk about it is also part of doing something. So what are the impacts of plastic pollution? It also affects aquatic life. Plastic in waterways leads to injection by marine life. So a lot of fishes, a lot of marine life, they eat all this microplastic in the habitats. And this also leads to a lot of destruction in the aquatic life. It also impacts the food chain. Then there's terrestrial impacts. Animal ingest plastics, leading to fatality. Then land are littered. There are lots of flooding that are being caused by plastic blocking the waterways. And this leads to a lot of disaster. Lives are being lost, property are being destroyed. It also affects the economic and social development of such states or such community. And the ripple effect is, after the flooding, it also leads to outbreak of diseases because the underground water are being contaminated. And when people drink from this, it leads to public health disaster. So the evolution of environmental policies in Nigeria. The cocoa incident of 1988 is very, very imperative when we are talking about environmental laws or policies in Nigeria, because the incident led to Nigeria waking up and having a proper legislation, a proper law that governs the environment. So let me just talk about the cocoa incident a bit. So in 1988, there's an Italian man under the disguise of an Italian company conspired with a Nigerian man in cocoa community, Bende State, now Delta State. So the Italian man shipped several barrels of hazardous waste into Nigeria and dumped it on this man. I think, if I remember correctly, the man is Sunday. So, and they had an agreement that he will pay him, I think 600 naira every month for him to dump this hazardous waste on his land. So the hazardous waste were being packed in barrels, and it were labeled, it was misleading because I think it was labeled something for building infrastructure or something. So the barrel passed through ports and all that, the necessary people that are supposed to check, thinking that the barrel was, what it's contained in the barrel was for building. So after dumping this hazardous waste on the land in Cocoa Village, people started getting sick. And when they are being transferred to the hospital, the doctor there discovered that there's a kind of chemical in the air, and the more they breathe it, the more they get sick. So that was when investigations started, and they discovered that a lot of hazardous waste were being dumped in the community. It led to a lot of people dying and a lot of children dying and a lot of community members in that cocoa village getting sick. And this was what woke Nigeria up, that they need to have a legislation, they need to have a law on environmental issues, because at that time, there was no agency, there was no government agency that is dealing with such thing. So what happens in Nigeria then was just laws, general laws on oil, and also international treaties that Nigeria are signatory to. Those were the laws or policies or regulation guiding Nigeria. So at this point, there was no law. So prior to 1988, there was largely an absence of specific and comprehensive environmental law. So environmental protection was largely derivative. The development of a comprehensive environmental law was prompted by this cocoa dumping. And the incident drove Nigeria into becoming more environmental conscious nation. So it marked the turning point in environmental regulations in Nigeria. So before the 1998 FEPA, because the incident led Nigeria into establishing FEPA, Federal Environmental Protection Agency, repealed and now NESRA. So before then, we have Factory Acts, Oil in Navigation Water Regulation, Oil Pipeline Act of 1956, Petroleum Act of 1966. You can see that all the acts were being, because we discover oil, there's an oil boom, and all the legislation we have at that time was either relating to oil, petroleum, and that's it. There was nothing that deals with waste. There was nothing that deals with pollution or any other environmental hazard. So after the cocoa incident, Nigeria legislated a lot of law. But before I talk about those laws, I would like to talk about the Constitution of Nigeria, because that's the ground norm. That's the highest law in the country. And so that's why I have to talk about it before moving to some other acts that was legislated after the cocoa incident. So the Nigerian Constitution provides for environmental protection. However, the provision comes under Chapter 2 of the Constitution, and Chapter 2 are not implementable. They are just policies that are persuasive. They are policies that the states or the federal government can look at and act on, but it's not like a breach of rights or something you can take to court to tell them that, no, my rights are being breached and I need justice. So these are just derived persuasive laws. So the section where environment reflects in the Constitution is Section 20, which state that the state shall protect and improve environment in the state, and that there are safeguards of water, air, and land and forest. But these are not rights. These are not enforceable in the courts. So there are some countries, like 107 countries, that have granted constitutional rights to environment, but Nigeria is not part of it. Countries in Africa like Benin, Ethiopia, Niger, Mali, Cameroon, South Africa, Togo, they all have, and the rest, they all have environmental rights. They all have rights to a clean and healthy environment. So if their rights are being tampered with, they can go to court to enforce that, oh, my right to environment is being breached and I need justice. But this is not the case in Nigeria. So we just have it under Chapter 2, which is just persuasive law. So like I said, after the cocoa incident, Nigeria brought into force FEPA, which is Federal Environmental Protection Agency Act, and it's repealed by National Environmental Standard Regulation Enforcement Agency Act, which is NESRA of 2007. And before the cocoa incident, there was no agency that deals with environmental issues. And that was what led to FEPA. So FEPA was legislated as an agency that if there's any environmental issue, that is the agency to go to. And those are the ones that will go there and make sure that everything is properly done. So, sorry, I beg your pardon. Give me a minute. Okay, so under NESRA, we have the following: National Environmental Protection Influence Regulation. We have National Environmental Protection. This do with polluters with the industry. That is a facility that is generating an industry that is generating waste. So these are regulations, National Environment Protection Regulation. These are all regulations under NESRA. We also have on electronics regulation, we have on healthcare waste regulations, we have sanitation and waste regulation, then we have health practice regulation. These are all regulations under NESRA Act of 2027 of 2007, and these are the scope of what NESRA, part of the scope of what NESRA can handle: the health waste, electrical, electronics, hazardous waste, and the likes. So there are some other legislations that were also done after the cocoa incident. We have the hazardous waste provision. This was legislated to deal specifically with hazardous waste in Nigeria. We also have NOSDRA Act, the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency. This NOSDRA deals specifically with oil, with petroleum, oil spillage, and all that. So when such thing happen, when oil spill happen, you cannot go to NESRA. It is NOSDRA that handles it. And these are kind of conflicting situations when we talk about our laws and agencies in Nigeria, because there's some scope that NESRA is covering, and there's some scope that NOSDRA is covering. But however, there's some intersection in their scope, and it's always very difficult to kind of identify the specific agency that you're going to go to for a particular purpose. Then we have the Nigerian Mineral and Mining Act of 2007, which deal with mining across Nigeria or anything relating to mining. We also have the oil, sorry, excuse me, my network. Sorry, I beg your pardon, please. Okay, so then we have the Oil in Navigation Act, which is also related to oil pollution, oil spillage, and all that. So environmental policies, those are the NESRA and all that, they are acts, but there are also some policies that Nigeria also have that is helping to protect our environment. So we have National Policy on Environment of 2016. Its aim is to ensure environmental protection and the conservation of our natural resources for sustainable development. We also have the National Policy on Municipal and Agricultural Waste Management, 2012. This is also policy that was developed to promote sustainable waste practices and reduce environmental pollution and also improve public health. Then we have environmental policy on environmental sanitation of 2005. Its aim to provide acceptable level of environmental sanitation to enable Nigerian citizens achieve socially and economically productive life. You all know environmental sanitation. So this is the act that brought about environmental sanitation in Nigeria. So we also have the National Policy on Chemical Management. This specifically deals with institutional, administrative, and technical infrastructure for managing chemicals in the country. We have the National Policy on Healthcare Waste Management. This deals with healthcare problem, the healthcare waste generation in Nigeria. So this policy is also dealing with the healthcare waste management. We have the National Policy on Solid Waste Management. These deal with waste, including solid, liquid, gaseous waste, and it recognizes the mandatory community involvement in managing waste as a specific input in ensuring that waste management managers perform their duty with highest degree of responsibility. We have the National Policy on Plastic Life Cycle Management. It was developed to drive resource efficiency, cleaner production, and protection of the environment, as stated in Section 20 of the 1999 Constitution. The policy aims to aid the management of resources for sustainable development. It also outlined the management of plastic waste in Nigeria. Then we have, then I'm going to talk about environmental regulations. The ones I spoke about is environmental policies. So the regulations are, they are developed basically by NESRA, the National Environmental Safety Regulations and Enforcement Act Agency, so of 2007. So they developed 35 environmental regulations, which, beg your pardon, which have been published in the Federal Republic Nigeria Official Gazette. So we have the National Environmental Wasteland, Riverbanks, and Lakeshore Regulation of 2009. So it provides for the conservation and wise use of the wetland, our resources in Nigeria, and ensures sustainable use of wetland for economic and tourism. Then we have the National Environmental Watershed, Mountainous, hilly, and catchment areas regulation of 2009 as well. This makes provision for the protection of waters in the catchment areas. Then we have the National Environmental Sanitation and Waste Control Regulation. This also provides legislative framework for the adoption of sustainable environment friendly practices in environmental sanitation. We have the National Environment Permitting and Licensing System Regulations 2009. It enables consistent application of environmental laws, regulations, and standards in all sets of the economy and geographical region. We have the National Environmental Access to Genetic Resources and Benefit Sharing Regulation. It regulates the access to genetic resources and to ensure regeneration and sustainability of threatened species in Nigeria. We have the National Environmental Mining Process of Coal, Industrial Mineral Regulation 2009. We have the National Environmental Ozone Layer Protection of 2002. These provisions seek to prohibit the import, manufacture, sales, and use of ozone depleting substances. So this regulation is regulating the use of ozone chemicals that is affecting our ozone layers. We have regulation on food, beverage, and tobacco sector. It's also minimized the kind of pollution that is generating from this, from businesses involved in food, beverages, and tobacco sector. Then we have National Environmental Textile, Wear, Apparel, Leather, Footwear Industry Regulation. This also sets regulation for industry dealing with leather, footwear, and the rest in Nigeria. We have the National Environmental Noise Standard and Control. This deals with noise pollution in Nigeria. Then we have National Environmental Chemical, Pharmaceutical, Soap, Detergent, Manufacturing Industry Regulation 2009. It prevents and minimizes pollution from all operations and ancillary activities from this sector. We have like up to 35, we have on telecommunication, we have on soil erosion and flood control of 2011. We have on the certification control, drought mitigation regulation of 2011, which seek to provide an effective, pragmatic regulatory framework for sustainable use of all areas already affected by desertification. We have the legislation dealing with recycling industry, steel manufacturing. It regulates, it helps prevent and minimize the pollution from all this operation and ancillary activities of the sector. of that sector. Then we have the National Environment Control of Bush, Forest Fire, Open Burning Regulation. So it's helped minimize the destruction of ecosystem through fire outbreak and burning of any material that may affect the health of our ecosystem. We have regulation on endangered species in international trade. It protects species of endangered wildlife from extinction. We have the domestic and industrial plastic rubber foam sector regulation. It's minimized pollution from all operation from this sector. We also have the one on coastal and marine area protection. That's 2011. It helps prevent anything that would degrade our coastal and marine environments. We have the one on construction, and it helps minimize pollution from construction. We have the one on vehicular emission from petrol and diesel engine of 2011. The purpose is to restore, preserve, and improve the quality of air in Nigeria. So the standard contained here provide for the protection of air from pollutants from vehicular emission. So we have on non-metallic mineral manufacture industry sector of 2011. We also have on surface and groundwater quality control regulation. It's to restore, enhance, and preserve the physical, chemical, and biological integrity of the nation's surface water. There's one on electrical sector. It prevents and minimizes pollution from all operation and ancillary activities of the electrical sector. We have the one on quarry and blasting operation. It helps control the effects of quarrying and blasting. Then we have the one on control of alien and invasive species of 2013. It seeks to prevent the decline and minimize the modification and destruction of our ecosystem. There's one on paper wood products. There's another one on motor vehicle miscellaneous assembly. That's 2013. And the purpose is to minimize pollution and waste from all activity of motor vehicle. There's one on air quality control, 2021. The purpose is to provide for improved control of nation's air quality to an extent that would enhance protection of flora and fauna and human health and other resources affected by air quality. We have the one on charcoal production and exports of 2014. The objective of this regulation are to protect Nigerian ecosystem from further depletion arising from cocoa production and handling, and to regulate the felling of tree for cocoa production. Then we have the one on dam and reservoir. The objective is to control the effects of dams and reservoir on the environment and human health, as well as to minimize environmental hazard and disasters such as dam break, sediment load, dam water releases causing downstream flooding and erosion. We have the one for hazardous chemical and pesticide regulation of 2014. The objective is to protect human health and the environment from harmful effects of hazardous chemicals and pesticides and other agrochemical. It also contributes to sustainable development of agriculture and the conservation of our environment. Then there's another one on energy sector of 2014. The purpose is to prevent and minimize pollution and encourage energy efficiency in all operation and ancillary activities of the energy sector. So you will wonder that why do we have all these regulations, all these policies, all these laws in Nigeria, and yet we are still facing a very serious environmental challenges. We are still facing air pollution, noise pollution, our water are being depleted. We are still battling with deforestation, there's climate change, desertification, all these environmental problems. And yet we have all these policies, we have all these regulations, we have all these laws. So what are the hurdles in realizing environmental policies in Nigeria? So we have interagency conflicts. Like I said earlier, NESRIA and NOSDRIA. There are some NESRIA has some things under them that they are, according to the law, that is what they are supposed to do. And NOSDRIA also have. So, but there are sometimes that an issue will happen, and then you'll be wondering that, what is the right agency, or who is the right agency to handle this issue? So this conflict, these multiple regulatory bodies often have overlapping mandates. So this also leads to a lot of non-effectiveness of all these policies, because all these laws, all these bodies have a lot of laws that are very misleading, or they intersect with each other. So the impact is unclear boundaries, hamper effective policy execution. So when we have a policy and then you do not even know the right agency to approach for such issue, so that means the policy would not work. Then we have valuable time and resources are spent on resolving internal disputes rather than addressing environmental issues. So like I said, there are some issues that NOSDRIA will say they are the one to handle it, and NESRIA will also say they are the ones to handle it. So all these issues, all these disputes between this governmental agency leads to not even addressing the environmental issues at hand. Then we have corruption and lack of transparency. The misappropriation of funds, bribery, especially in large-scale environmental projects, can detail process. So regulatory capture, where industry exerts undue influence on regulatory bodies. There are a lot of times that an industry that is supposed to go through environmental impact assessment and all the other things for the facility to operate, all these are being boycotted by bribing all this agency and not doing what this facility is supposed to do. And this leads to lack of, leads to not effectively implementing all these environmental policies. Then there is infrastructure and capacity building need. Nigeria still need a lot of infrastructure. We have an inadequate facility when we talk about waste management, pollution control, or monitoring. All these insufficient investments in also eco-friendly technology, and all these deficits is affecting effective implementation of all these policies, all these regulations. So there's also capacity building challenges. Training and skill development for environmental personnel are often lacking. Also, there is limited public awareness campaign and education on environmental issues. So this capacity deficit or this capacity gap is also affecting effective implementation of environmental policies in Nigeria. Then we have economic interest. We have economic interest. Powerful industry might resist change that affects profitability, even if those changes are environmental benefits. So there's some policies that are being made by the government, and industry, especially powerful industry, like especially oil and gas, they will resist this policy because it's going to affect them. It's going to affect their profits. So, and they kind of have a way of going through the back door by probably bribing all this agency, government agency, and not doing what the law or what the policy established. Then we have lack of political will. Most times, environmental issues are pushed to the back when governments are implementing or making policies. So even if these policies are made, there will be no effective implementation, or governments will not be ready to put money or funding into making sure these policies and laws are effectively implemented. So then we have insufficient funding. Most times, these agencies lack funding. They lack funding to execute or to implement all these policies that they need to implement to make our environment better. So because governments are not really funding them, it leaves a gap in implementing environmental policies. Then there's bureaucratic red tape over complex administration processes. can delay the execution of beneficial environmental projects. So there are some policies that are being made that are said that, okay, for any industry to handle this project, that these are the things you need to go through according to the law or the regulation. So, but because of the complex administrative processes, there are delays, and a lot of times these policies are not followed. Then we have weak enforcement mechanism. All these agencies lack enforcement mechanism. They don't really have the power, or they don't really have the power to really implement all these policies. Then there's knowledge and information gap. Absence of comprehensive data and research can hinder the formulation of effective policy. Then we have lack of public awareness and cultural and traditional practices. Like I said in the beginning, there are some traditional practices or cultural practices that conflict with environmental policies. And when this happens, because these agencies do not really have the capacity or the necessary fund, they just ignore. They don't go for the implementation of such policies. So what are the ways for achieving a greener future? Promoting a circular economy. So we need to transit from traditional linear economic, which is make, use, and dispose, to a circular economic where resources are reused, are recycled, are repurposed. So a circular economic, resources go round and round and round in such economy. So we need to move from linear economic to circular economy. Then we have urban greening, introduction of rooftop garden, vertical farming, tree planting initiative to help combat urban heat and promote biodiversity, and also help fight climate change. Then we have enhanced public transport. Carpooling is one of the great ways for us to achieve greener future. And if our public transport system is not effective, there is no way we won't be adding to our carbon footprint every day. So we need to enhance our public transport so that this will reduce the amount of vehicle on the road that are generating to our carbon footprint. So a lot of people will prefer to take the public transport, and this also help reduce our carbon footprint. Then we have green building standard. A lot of architectural building are not built in a way to help us achieve a greener future. Then we have agricultural shifts. Agricultural practices in Nigeria are not being practiced in a way to help fight climate change or to help fight biodiversity loss. Then we have water conservation initiative. There's ecotourism. We don't need to practice tourism that will impact our environment or that will impact our ecosystem. Then there's we need to support renewable energy. We move from dependence on oil and to greener or renewable energy. Then plastic alternative. We need to move from single-use plastic, especially, and move to have alternative to plastic. So if we don't need to use plastic, we don't use it. Then we need education and youth engagement. Education is very fundamental. We need to mainstream environmental education into our educational system. We need to engage youth more to come up with initiatives that can help find alternative to plastic and also help protect our environment. So I want to end with this quote from Gina McCarthy. She said, policy is driven by more than just politics. It is driven by people and their priority. So McCarthy quote is a reminder that while politicians and governments make policies, the voice and priority of the people have a significant role in shaping the direction and nature of these policies. It's a call for active public engagement and a recognition of the power of collective will in shaping policy direction. So we all need have a role to play. We all need to be involved in policies and regulations or policies and laws in our country. We need to work together to influence policy and make policies that will really help protect our environment. Thank you.
Oh, wow, wow. Thank you so much for this amazing and enlightening session. We sincerely appreciate, and the very last quote is mind-blowing and thought-provoking indeed. Please, can we celebrate Madam Oluwaseyi for this insightful session she has led this morning on environmental policy? And I know that many of us are just, you are so surprised that we have so much of these policies and regulation in Nigeria. Yeah, but just like the last quote says, it's in our hands. We have a role to play in that. We can't just leave it to the government, to the politicians alone. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I can see different comments and different appreciation for this session. Thank you for making it so detailed and insightful. Right about now, we are going to be taking questions. Please, if you have a question, you can raise your hand. Then we are going to call you to ask your question. If you have a question, kindly raise your hand, then we call you to ask your question. And I can see 2 hands up already. So I'm going to start from Godswi. Man, please, we would like to take 3 questions at once because we have many people that are going to be asking questions. So we'll just make it very brief. So please, if your question is not related to this session, don't bother unmuting your mic and speak. Just say it, ask your question in 30 seconds so that every other people can also get to ask their question. All right, Gosri, can you unmute your mic and ask your question?
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Emmanuel. Great session. The facilitator did justice to the environmental laws. But please, my question is not about her session, actually. I've been asking it on the chat box. I don't know how to join my own state group, please.
Thank you very much, Gosri, and thank you for starting by saying your question is not related to our question, our session. We are going to attend to that, and I will address that during the end of the session. Please, those of us that are raising our hand, ensure your question is related to this session. We need to manage the time we have. All right, Oluwafunmilayo, kindly unmute your mic and ask your question. Oluwafunmilayo, can you unmute your mic and ask your question in 30 seconds? And what is 30 seconds? You are muted. Okay, can we have Kazim from Ogun State? Kazim, kindly unmute your mic and ask your question.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Emmanuel.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Emmanuel.
All right, good morning this morning. Speak on. Yes, you can speak on. Hello.
No, it's not video.
Oluwafunmilayo, you can speak on. Your mic is unmuted. We can hear you. Oh, she's not there. All right. Let's have Kazim. Kazim, you can.
Good morning, Mr. Emmanuel.
Oluwafunmilayo, you have to wait, and we take another person. We don't really have much time. Kazim, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Emmanuel, and thank you to our facilitator. It has been an amazing section. But the issue of this interwoven activities of our agency has been a great problem to us. How can we try to address this issue? Because outside being a recycler, I've been working with a town planning firm. I see where Ministry of Environment is having issue with Ministry of Urban and Physical Planning. We don't even know the limitation of the responsibility of each person. And I think another thing, like from the last quote.
Your question is, Kazim, your question is, I know you've asked a question, you still have another question to ask.
Regulating the activities of interwovenness of the regulation of environmental issues.
Okay, all right.
We achieve it. How?
So let's have Ejiro from Delta State. Kindly unmute your mic and ask your question. So we got your question clearly, Kazim, and I know that she's going to provide justice to that. Ejiro, you can unmute your mic and speak. Ask your question in 30 seconds.
Good morning, all. I
morning.
want to appreciate our facilitators and Mr. Emmanuel for giving us this opportunity. My question goes like this, in relation to the last quote she made. I'm really motivated that policy is not just driven by politics or by politicians or politics. So I now saw that from her lectures and everything, I observed that we as citizens of the country, we have an impact to play in enforcing these policies, because here in Delta State, in Warri in particular, there are lots of dump sites and a lot of environmental degradation going on daily and daily. So if I may ask our facilitator, in what way and how can we, if I'm interested, to contribute in the advocacy, in advocating this policy in Nigeria, and particularly my community where I live, to make these citizens and to make these laws be enforced, not just by just recycling economy, the recycling the waste alone, making them do the right thing.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Ejiro. Can we have Insikera? Apologies, I mispronounced your name, from Enugu State. You can unmute your mic. I wish we have a lady that is going to speak. Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Okay, I have two questions actually to ask for. I think someone have asked the other one about, most of the entanglement that has to do with agencies, they are always conflicting in executing the duties. I think someone has asked that question already. And then the next question I want to ask is, how do we engage the government more in implementing these policies and standing by them? I'm actually from Cross River, but currently in Enugu State. And in Cross River, goodness, this place is something else. It is becoming something else. So how do we engage the government more in implementing its policies? Thank you. And once again, I want to say thank you to the speaker. She did so well.
Awesome. Thank you for that question. Over to you, Madam Washe. We appreciate you attend to these first three questions while we take the next set.
Yes, thank you very much. Those are fantastic, very wonderful questions. For the first one, the interwoven between agencies. In all honesty, I have been also facing that kind of issues. So and I love the example he made about the town planning having interwoven policies or with the Ministry of Environment. It happens even with Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Agriculture and so many like that. So I think what we can do is, mostly when all these laws and policies are being made, we citizens, we don't engage. We don't even know how these policies are being made. We don't know when they call for, because before they pass a law, it goes through the House of Assembly. And most times citizens are being, it's open for us to go and challenge the law, or for us to make provisions to make our inputs into these laws. So what I would just say is, we should be more engaging in all these things. We are too laid back. We just want government to do everything. We don't open up, we don't really read about it. We don't really know what is even happening in our space. We don't know how powerful our voice can be. We don't know that we can go to, when they are making this law, before the House of Assembly passes it, we can also raise an objection. We can do a lot of things. I would also say that most times people that do this, that sit down and write these laws, they don't even understand. They don't even understand. They might not even be an environmentalist. You might even be more educated. You might even be more exposed and experienced than them. So most times these people just sit together, they bring maybe a law from another country, they just copy it, and then it's our law. So most times there are issues. So what I would just say, as much as it still boils to the government to they are the one that do this, no, they're the one that legislate it and all that. We also have a role to play. We need to be more involved. We need to be more involved in our community, in our states, and even Nigeria as a whole. So, and most times when these issues happen between agencies, we as well can also go for advocacy visits, educate them, tell them, oh, this and this is happening. Let's look at the laws together. There must be something in the law that will make maybe town planning, okay, you can do this, and Nigeria can, and Ministry of Environment can do this. All I'm just saying is we should be more involved in all these policies and governance in our community. Then the next question, how can we contribute to policy? I think I've also answered that question. And law enforcement. And law enforcement in the country, in our community, I think I'm right. Is that the question?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I think I've also answered that. If we want to contribute to policy, first of all, we need to know what is happening in our community, in our country. We need to know when these policies are being made or are about to be made. And this cannot happen unless you engage yourself with what is happening with the governance in your community. So the more you educate yourself, you get more involved, the more you are likely to know when these policies are about to be made, and then you can give your inputs. You can also go for advocacy visits with all these ministries that you think they are the one handling, maybe Ministry of Environment, town planning, Ministry of Infrastructure, and all that. Have a relationship with them, go offshore for advocacy, tell them what you think they are not doing right, not in a harsh manner, in a very friendly manner, like you bring in what you think, oh, there's law on this and it's not being implemented in our states. What do you think I can do to help drive this? Or what do you think my organization and the ministry can do together to help drive this policy? Because most times these policies are being made and the ministry or the agency do not even really know that they have a policy that is really governing them, or there's a way out to the issues that we are facing in the country or in the community or in the states. So your expertise goes a long way in you coming to the table and also educating them that, oh, there's this policy, if we can do it like this, it will help drive environmental sustainability in the states. And also, I think it's the same question, how do we engage? The third question, how do we engage government? There are different ways of engaging government, but the truth is, I always encourage that we work in unity with the government. Not, if you really want to engage government, if you really want to have a policy change or make impact, as much as you can do it the radical way, you can also achieve the radical way by tackling the government, being on the news, talking about policy that is not working, or you can also work with them. You can regularly go on advocacy visits, try and understand what is happening. And I bet you, whenever they want to make policy relating to what you are always coming to do with them, they will definitely engage you. They will tell you that, oh, the assembly wants to pass this thing. I want you to be there to also make your inputs. So all in all, I just want us to really understand what is happening in our community, the governance, the policies, and all this. In my presentation, all those policies, most of us do not even know that Nigeria has those policies. And even in our state level, because most times the state needs to also domesticate these laws and regulations or policies. So most times in our state, in our community, we do not even know all the policies that we have on ground to help drive our initiative and all that. So all in all, I would want us to be more open and be more, you should understand, be involved in what is happening in your state or your community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this insightful response you've shared with us. And we just take the very last set of questions. And I would like to call on Oluwafunmilayo. Are you ready to ask a question now? Please unmute your mic and ask your question if you are there.
Yes, Mr. Emmanuel, thank you. Good morning.
Okay, good
Okay, so
morning.
my question goes thus. I like to know the regulatory bodies that a recycling company, a startup, would need to engage and to sign up with at all the levels, from the local government to the state and to the federal. Then I like also to know if there are laws that are backing individuals who are aspiring to help to tackle disposal of waste in the community, or is it a sole responsibility of the government, especially the local government where one resides? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that question. Can we have Rabiu Mustafa from Adamawa? You can unmute your mic and ask a question. Rabiu? Hello, Rabiu. If you're there, can you unmute your mic and ask?
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you.
It's all right, thank you, good morning. Actually, my concern, because to be honest, I never heard about Nasdria until today. So, but I know about Nasria, and there was a point that was made that this interagency conflict, I really don't know, is it their mandate, is it the act, is it not being specifically stated that results to the conflict, or there are some issues, maybe the red tape, as she said, that regards to that? Because knowing the two agencies specifically supposed to separate their regulatory act, and they're supposed to have the mandate to enforce whatever law that is being stated. So that's my concern. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Rabiu. Thank you for that question. Can we just take one more? Let's have John from Abuja. You can unmute your mic and ask a question, John.
Okay, thank you for a wonderful lecture. I'm actually blessed. My question is on the issue of urbanization, which we know that is based on the lecture, and I see that it's one of the contributors to actually environmental issues. Like here in Abuja, see all these estate developers, you know, most of the time you will see what some of the things they do. And I don't know, because the issue is that I discovered that there are people who have political affiliation. So even the rules is not, they tend not to abide by some of these things. I don't know what effort and who are those who are responsible to actually work on that. And the issue of awareness on the rules that guide environments. Let me use example, villages. Villages, I don't think my village or any village know that there is something guiding environment. So who is responsible? Because if you just measure me, if not because I've read, some people in the village do not know anything like this. Sometimes I will go to some villages because I work in communities. I normally travel to community, and I will see some people will now come in the name of government, arresting some people for things they did not create awareness on. So, and you see that they'll be extorting some money from those poor farmers. So I don't know who is responsible and in what way can we also help so that such things.
All right, Sma, I will just appreciate you attend to these questions. These are very excellent questions, and we keep having more ones. And yeah, but please kindly attend to these questions first.
Yes, I would like to attend to the last one where he spoke about villages, people coming in to arrest, and that who are responsible. I always say that anytime I have an opportunity, that we are one of the most important people that can help these villages, people living in the village. When we go to the village to sensitize them, we need to educate them on also laws and policies that they need to understand in order to guide their environment. So people coming in, faking as government official, arresting them and for them paying fines and all that. That means they don't even understand, they lack awareness. And awareness can only be achieved education on this can only be achieved by people like you and I going to these villages, educating these people. Because if we wait for any government agency, they are not going to do it. And what do we want to achieve? We all want to achieve the same goal, having a sustainable environment, reduction in plastic pollution, air pollution, and all that. So, like I said, we all have a role to play. And we are the fastest route to this, to educating these people, because we are all passionate about environment. So we need to put more efforts. We need to educate these villagers, people living in the village, especially on their rights and also ways of protecting the environment. So you also spoke about urbanization. Sorry, I'm answering the question from bottom to up. So you spoke about, So you spoke about urbanization and how it's affecting the environment, if I'm correct. Sorry, if you can just take the question again, the one on urbanization. Okay, so I didn't get it, so I'm just going to move to Nosdra and Nezra. I think he wants to know how this agency, how they have interwoven. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
so the laws that brought Nosdra specifically stated that, I'm just using Nosdra and Nezra as examples, specifically stated that they work when we have oil or anything relating to oil spillage and all that. But Nezra deals with environment in general. So, and oil pollution and all this relates to environment. So sometimes it's difficult to really differentiate that, okay, Nezra do not have, their mandates do not relate to this specific matter, or their mandate relates to this specific matter. For example, there's oil spillage, it affects the river, and after a while, there were, maybe Nosdra came in, do what they are supposed to do. And later we discovered that fishes are dying in the river, or something is happening in that environment, probably caused by the oil spillage that Nosdra they came in to intersect and all that. But after some time, we discovered that such things is happening. So are we going to go to Nosdra or going to go to Nezra? So those are issues that we are trying to talk about. And I see on the chat earlier that somebody said the federal government is trying to work on all this agency having interwoven mandates. Then there's another question on laws on recycling. If you're in a particular state and you're dealing with, you are working around recycling, you need to engage, first of all, the Ministry of Environment. This is the particular ministry that handles anything relating to environment. Ministry of Environment, then in most community or state, they have waste management authorities as well. You need to engage that agency as well. So you spoke about for individual in recycling. The laws that govern you as an organization also govern you as an individual working in recycling. But for an individual, it depends on what you're doing. Are you engaging your community, or what exactly are you doing as individual? But relatively, you need to apart from the financial, because it's a company and all that, you need to get incorporated and all that. I'm not speaking about that. I'm just speaking specifically about how it relates to environment, which is Ministry of Environment and waste management. Yeah, that are involved. Thank you.
Thank you for these responses. These are really insightful. I would just quickly like to take the very last set of. Sorry, you have an event. You have an event. That's true. Apologies. So please, your mic. Hello, your mic is muted.
Okay, sorry. I said I have to go. I have another webinar.
Yes, you have an event. That's true.
Yes,
please, I would like to drop. Is it possible we just share your LinkedIn or email?
Yes, it's fine. Yes, it's fine.
All right. So
yes, I have to go now.
Since you have
thank you so much. Yes, thank you. It's wonderful being here. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. On behalf of the leadership of EDF, Nigeria, EDF Africa, and SDSN Nigeria, I want to say a big thank you for this engaging and insightful session you've led this morning. And we look forward to have you over and again. Thank you so much, man.
Bye. Bye.
All right, bye. Have a wonderful day. Dear participants, we believe it's been a wonderful session and a thought-provoking one indeed, which you all had good knowledge in line to environmental policies, regulation, control. And each and every one are going to be actor. We definitely are going to be acting towards protecting the environment, not leaving it just to the government or to the politicians alone. Yeah, definitely the politicians are also looking for you to get them engaged and also share your thoughts, share your own initiatives, and definitely these are things that are going to fly over and over. I've seen many youths that get to advocate for this environmental policy, climate justice, and now they are in the international space and there is no event that they are holding in line to climate or environment. We always see them in that event. It's not just something they have to achieve in a day. It's just about consistency. And the more you are able to sustain this process and you are known for something, and once you are known for that thing, I can assure you that you are going to make your impact and it's going to be mind-blowing. And also to inform that the tracking and evaluation form has been shared. Please endeavor to fill that form before you leave the session today. And yeah, it's been shared. Please endeavor you fill the form before you leave to the session. And I would just like to say this for each and every state. It was earlier mentioned, that was last week or this week, thereabouts, that each and every state should have a representative, and you have to send the name of your representative to one of the programs team. And there are still some states which I'm not sure all the states have done that. I'm not so sure, but if your states haven't done that, please ensure you engage with each and every one. You don't need to wait for anyone to talk or anyone to volunteer or anyone to vote you. So let it be a collective action, and you can get to lead the space and get to make that change. Definitely, I would just like to say one or two things briefly. We are going to be having the assessment and knowledge evaluation on Saturday, 8 p.m. on Saturday. Is it 8 p.m.? Yeah, 8 p.m. on Saturday. And the phase 2 of this program is going to commence 2nd of October, which has to do with the very first part is the awareness and advocacy campaign. And after which we're also going to have the case study development. However, for the each state leaders, please also prepare, have it in mind that there's going to be a briefing this Saturday. This is going to be shared with you what is being expected in this awareness and advocacy part and also case study development. And I will also advise each and every one of us to get to study the work plan and also the timeline that has been shared, with us. It's very, very important. It's very, very important. Please don't miss out in that. Don't miss out in that. We just like to, okay, the form has been shared. Someone is still asking, where's the form? Please, Blessing, you can reshare that form on the Zoom session here. Also trying to see if I can share, Blessing or Mary, you can just reshare that form for each and everyone that on the Zoom. Please, you are not meant to share that form on your WhatsApp platform. So just ensure you fill it, give us a feedback, how the session was, how impactful it was, what are the new things you learned, and what are you also looking forward to learn in the next coming session. So I'm trying to confirm something. For all the presentation slides, there is a link that will be shared with us later in the week, and we can have access to all the presentation slides. However, the sessions are available on YouTube. You can always get to rewatch the session. So should in case you want to study the session again, you can just get to rewatch and learn over and over again. I believe it's been a wonderful day and it's been a wonderful engagement for each and everyone. Okay, maybe I should just take one or two questions before we move on. My friend, I was asking a question the other time. So this is a time you can ask your question. This is a very good time you can ask your question, and I'm here to attend to your question. But you're not to ask me a question regarding environmental policy and control anyway. I'm not in that class. I'm not in charge of that session. So if you have a question, you can get to, okay, Goswi, I can see your hand up now. Goswi, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Yes, thank you very much. So I was asking after the group from Akwa Ibom, because I didn't attend yesterday's session. I couldn't attend. I was not allowed in the session. I don't know how I can locate my own group leader, please.
Are you on the central platform? Hello?
Yes, yes. Yes, I'm on the central platform. Yes.
The central platform, there is a PDF that was shared with you. On that PDF, it contains all the links for the entire Tennessee State plus FCT. So it's just for you to check your state there and join. So, and we didn't have any session yesterday. The sessions are
okay, thank you very much. I'll do that
tomorrow. So for those of us that have not been able to join the central platform, okay, a link is going to be shared now, and it's also going to be sent via email. So you can just use that link to input your information. Maybe you are having issues, you are encountering some technical issues with Zoom and maybe evaluation form or WhatsApp platforms. Please just use that link to put down your technical complaint, and that is going to be attended to. The team are going to attend to that, and once they receive it. So I will also try to share the link now. However, this is going to be sent via email. Hopefully in the next email correspondence that is going to be shared, that's going to be sent to us, then we can get to log in our complaints. So if you are having issues regarding WhatsApp, you couldn't join the WhatsApp platform, you have issues with the tracking and evaluation form, please just drop the link there. You can get to share. You can get to log in your information and let us know what exactly it is. Please, I'm trying to confirm if Azuma is on the call. Please, are you on the call? I would just like to confirm if you're on the call. I'm trying to check. Please, I would appreciate you just to raise your hand so that we can give you access to speak. Okay, Abdullah, you can unmute your mic and speak. Abdullah.
All right, good morning, sir.
Azuma, please, if you're on the call, I will appreciate you raise your hand so that we can give you access to speak.
All right, good morning. So I attended the session on Friday, and I think in between the session, I lost the network. So I think by the time I came in back, they've already shared the tracking and evaluation form. So I was unable to fill the form on Friday, even though I attended the larger part of the session. Is there anything that I can do for that?
It's 4 sessions. It's the rule is you must not miss more than one. You can miss one. So if you just missed last week, today and tomorrow is still there to cover you. I believe I've answered your question. Ikechukwu, please unmute your mic and ask your question. Then after DBC should prepare to ask you a question. You can ask a question.
Okay, hello, good morning.
Good morning this morning.
Hello, good morning. Okay, please, my question is on the knowledge and evaluation test that will be held on Saturday. Is there any basis for our study based on the questions that will be asked for the test? Or are we meant to go through any particular article or document?
Okay,
for the
thank you
test?
very much
That was my
for that
question.
question. The evaluation is going to be conducted based on what you've been taught during the workshop series. So it's within the context of the circular economy, risk management, environmental policy, and the ones which we are also going to have later, which tomorrow or thereabouts. Yeah, so it's not going to be outside what you're being taught. And at this current phase, please, it's important for each and every state to start discussing what their awareness and advocacy campaign is going to look like. You might decide to have an educational outreach. You might decide to have a public event whereby you just do a sensitization, maybe to any community group. And you might decide to go through the radio or TV, decide on which strategy which you want to go on your campaign in line to making public awareness on circular economy and sustainable waste management practices. So it also contributes to what each and everyone can do. So this now you are not doing individually, you are doing as a team. So I want to reiterate this. It's very, very important. You need to get that well planned out, because there's also a timeline to that. I believe it's started yesterday. So you are meant to start, and between now and Sunday evening, you have to discuss what you want to do in line to your advocacy campaign. And after which you are going to move to the case study plan and case study development, which is the second part of phase 2. But for now, the priority is on the awareness and advocacy campaign. They are going to send a link to you whereby you can submit your proposal, your short proposal. It's just a short proposal, what is all about and what you intend to achieve. And after which you get your approval, and they're also going to share some letters in form of introduction letter, whereby you can get to submit in any community group or organization you are going to. But please, you are not meant to spend any money on this. So it's something that is within your reach, within your community. So for states that are very big and you have a very big wide groups, you can have subgroups, you can have sub-teams, whereby you have like 6 teams in that state, 6 subgroups in that state, and you get to work in line to this project. So I would like to hold each and every one of us. Okay, I can see, just in a minute, I can see what someone's hand up. Okay, I can't see Madam Adzu. I can't see her hand up. I can't see Madam Azuma. Victor Aduka, you have a question. Okay, let me just take 2 more questions. Then all other questions will go to the WhatsApp platform. The WhatsApp platform is going to be open for us to ask our questions. Then we'll be able to respond to it there. All right, Adebisi, you can unmute your mic and ask your question. Please make it very brief.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I really appreciate today's lecture. It was very, very educative. It's just like you have an idea of the kind of question I want to ask. The last, what you just said last, or enlighten us about, I've answered 90% of my questions, so I'm not going to bother myself asking the question again. And what I would like to ask now is, for the proposal, is there a procedure you want us to use in writing up this proposal, or every state can just come up with any format? I don't know if you have a specific proposal you want every state to follow.
So they're going to share the link with you, and the link entails questions. And yeah, it's a very short proposal and just a 1-page template, which is going to be shared with you. However, that doesn't, that will also guide you better on what to do. All right, for all other questions, we are going to take them on the what's been an impactful session for each and everyone. We believe that each and every learning, every learning you are taking from here, you are going to make use of it, and you are going to get to advocate the more. Beyond that, you are going to practice. Achieving sustainability or sustainable development requires your own discipline. Discipline in terms of sustainable living practices, your daily action, and at home, at work, everywhere you get to. So people will get to also emulate things you are doing and get to spread across. We are just halfway to 2030 agenda. what is your contribution? You need to ask yourself towards achieving the 2030 agenda. It can be achieved, and each and every action contributes towards the achievement. Okay, see you tomorrow morning by 9 a.m. Please, for states that are here to have their team lead, ensure you do that before the end of today. And please get each and every team engaged and discuss on what your advocacy and awareness project is going to be. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of the weekend. Bye, everyone.
Our oceans sustain life. An abundant ocean can feed 1 billion people a healthy meal every day forever. But now they are being killed by throwaway plastics. The equivalent of 1 garbage truck of plastic is dumped in the sea every minute. 17.6 billion pounds every year. Plastic is everywhere in our ocean, floating on the surface, mixing in the salt water, and sitting on the ocean bottom, miles and miles deep. And once in the ocean, it never goes away. Over hundreds of years, it breaks down into small pieces. But those pieces, even the tiny ones called microplastics, are still plastic. Sea turtles are choking on it. Scientists say that over 60% of whale and dolphin species are affected by it. Zooplankton, the base of the ocean food chain, eat it. And so do we. It's in the water we drink. It's in our food.